Junior with just
Mahomes.
4 guys, you know what I mean? So they made him uncomfortable from the beginning, and shoot, it was amazing run. It was good for Saquon. I was happy for him, man. He was class all year long too. But Hurts, man, I mean, I don't even know how people can hate on him a little bit. You know what I mean? Ever since Alabama days, they and it's funny too because the people that are saying he's not a this and a that, they never played sports, and then some of them that have played, they weren't starters. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Who cares if he is was Eli as good as Peyton? Statistically, no, but he had 2
No.
Super Bowls before Peyton did.
And
So
he beat Brady.
yeah, right. So I was just really
Yeah.
happy for Jalen Hurts because, like I said, man, his parents did a great job of raising him. I mean, ever since the adversity from Alabama, he handled that with a grain
Yep.
of salt. When Tua got hurt, he had to go back in
Tua.
there. Then they benched him again, and then he, he leaves for Oklahoma, and he gets taken in the second round. They say, oh, he's overrated. He's this. He never gets caught up in
Yeah.
that stuff. You know what I mean? He knows what he's made of. He believes
Yeah.
in what he believes in, and I just think it was good. To me, it was good. I know some people, and
Yeah.
I know Junior, and I know his dad. I mean, either way, I was going to be happy. But I'm, like I said, it was 2
Yeah.
African American kids playing quarterback, something that we had to wait a long time to come to fruition. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it was good
Dude, it
for me.
was I'm with you, and I honestly have no idea how anyone can hate on that dude either. Like, I honestly, yeah, we're rolling, Chris. I really don't know because like the dude's a class act all around. He plays the game the right way, like you said, and there's just I don't know, man. I don't know how you could hate on the dude, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. So it's like you really like you can't say anything to this dude. You know what I mean? So
And whenever someone does, say it, he always has the right response. You know what I mean? He doesn't get caught up in the he said, she said, F you or whatever that means. He just
you know,
he realizes, and more kids should be like that, or more athletes or more human beings per se. You know, it
yeah.
really doesn't matter what someone else thinks or says about us unless we allow them to affect our lives. You know what I mean? We don't have to allow what everyone says, or what does it matter if everyone doesn't like us? I mean,
Hey, it's that Marshawn clip you said earlier today. It was like, he talk shit.
yeah, yeah,
He's so
he's not
comfortable with himself, just like yourself. You're so comfortable with who you are. You know, you're comfortable with yourself. You know who you are. Like somebody you can't rattle, when you understand who you are. So
yeah, and people can say what they want, and people can critique and you know do whatever, but I mean, you just try not to let it bother you. I had coaches and people along the way, and my grandmother at an early age said, "Everyone's not going to like you. What does it matter?" And
yeah,
if they have no influence in your life, or if they have no relevance in your life, what difference does it make? So don't give people power that they should not have.
God, that's
So
a good.
that's
That's I hope people listen to that and hear that. We're definitely going to clip that one out because that's very impactful. I feel like a lot of people need to hear that on a daily basis, really, because like I feel
especially
like
where
that's
we're at
something
right
that
now.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. Yeah. What about the Giants now? What are they thinking after that win? I mean, I don't know, man. That's all I kept seeing the next day was just like all these like clips of the just fake stuff about the Giants because it's like how'd you let that go? I mean, obviously he was a huge factor in the year, but they really rallied and dude, I mean they just blew out that game. So
Yeah, but he was a major reason for him to get there because
that's
and it's
agreed.
funny
Yes.
because remember football for a few years they were crapping on the running backs, right? Shitting on the running backs.
Hmm.
Oh, running backs aren't important. Blah blah blah. Like I said, you need defense and you need to be able to control the clock without in to win championships. You know what I mean? That's the meal ticket to winning Super Bowls, right? And
Yes.
quarterback has to make plays and can't turn it over. But if you can run the ball and you can get pressure on the quarterback, I mean, you pretty much write your own success, and that's what they did this year. They ran the ball. And for so many teams, and I have to say it, about my 49ers, when Harbaugh
Yep.
versus Harbaugh, in the Super Bowl, they run all the way down there. Frank Gore just ran it down their throat all the way down there to the one. And then all of a sudden we decide to throw the ball 4 times. And same thing, with beast mode, you run it all the way down there on the one.
Bro.
And then they throw the interception. Sometimes we just try to outsmart ourselves, man. And one thing I say about, you know, the Eagles is, hey, they're going to do what they do. They don't care if you just got to stop them, right? You got to
Yeah.
stop them. They're going to push. They're going to run the ball on 4th and 1, and they're going to make you have to commit, and then you can get
Yep.
one-on-one with the wide receivers. But for some, I think these coaches are let the players play, let the players win, and the coaches will have success, right?
Yeah,
You
you
know,
actually just said it. You gave two really good examples of like completely not playing their game. They took it all the way. They played their game, and then they gave up on their game, and then they lose those games. You're 100% right with Gore. And
because
I mean, dude, that Seattle game would be that was the. I mean, come on.
and the thing about it, even if you are one of those quarterbacks, hey man, I'm about to audible out this son bitch and give it to you. It's about the trophy, right? At that point,
It's about the trophy.
and and it's not so much the quarterback's fault. I just think if you had a Brady or you had a Montana, they're gonna be like, hey man, this is not no, we're gonna do this and hand the ball off and get in the end zone. We're not gonna
I
take a
mean,
chance on getting interception. We're not gonna, go 4 and out. You throw it 4 straight times from the half a yard line after you just ran
it's
it down there.
crazy.
And the 49ers were based on physicality, right?
Yep.
So like I said, that one hurt me. You know what I mean? You get all the way down there and
Yeah.
you throw 4 passes. But they stayed true to who they were. The Eagles,
Well,
you got to, Sirianni. For me, I thought sometimes that was going to get them in trouble. Going for 4th and 3, 4th and 5. When you get down in the playoffs, man, you got to punt the ball.
you got to put the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you. It's funny. It's funny you say that too. It was like because like a really good example is like I was like Peyton Manning, right? You just said it. Eli and Peyton. Peyton Manning had some of his best years, didn't win at all, right? And then like that last year with the Broncos, his defense and they all carried him. He was a shell of himself, but they still win that Super Bowl of all the Super Bowls that he goes to. I know
and,
he
and
won before with Colts, but like he had two touchdowns, but they were give me touchdowns, but he let his the team picked him up. It's a team sport, right? Those are team sports. It shows you like you got to do what got you there for one. Because I think the year that they lost to Seattle, like was it 2 years or a year before? Like they gave up the most points in like Super Bowl history, like or
you're
whatever the
right.
biggest gap, right? And Peyton that same year had like the record for touchdown passes, and they don't win. But the
But,
year
but
they win,
yeah, you
yeah,
simplify it, right? Run the
simplify.
ball and play defense. And you think of Dilfer and quarterbacks like that, they call it game
Yeah,
manager. Dilfer, shit, him playing on that team, and what you can call him whatever you want to call him. He has a ring. He's a quarterback that won
yep,
a Super Bowl, and he's made a lot of money since then, right? And it's
yep,
but he knew what he had. Hey, do not turn the ball over. Let my defense do what they do, and hand this ball off. Basically
yeah.
that's and that's it. Know who you
Well,
are.
I have a question from you played professional. So like in those instances of like the 49ers and like the Seattle with Marshawn, like who called those plays? Like how did like you said they ran it all the way to get there to the one both that's two examples. And then they didn't then do the passes to lose those games. Like
No,
who makes those calls? Is it the quarterback at the end of the day? Like
no, it's offensive coordinator, but still goes through the same
yeah.
headset as the head coach, right? And you
Yeah.
know, and you had veteran quarterbacks at the time. I think Kaepernick. I mean, you're better off quarterback sneaking with Kaepernick than having him roll out to the right and throw the ball 4 times to the same side of the field, to the short side of the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't think
Wow.
it's almost like you say do what your quarterback does best, right? Do
Yes.
you know have your system? Your system worked all year long to the big game, and then you decide to outsmart yourself, right? And I don't know. I
Yeah.
know it's easier said than done, because, like I said, ever since I retired, I never had a bad day. You know what I mean? From the couch, from the couch, everything's easy, man. You know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I agree.
I have
So,
not
so
I have not forgot how tough it is either. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm sure, and how getting to that stage and being so close, right? Like that's kind of what's hard, right? Is like getting so close, and because I'm sure it's like one of those things that you play back a million times. You're just like, oh, if I'd have just done this, because we all have those moments, right? Even if you didn't play sports, you still everybody has moments where you
oh,
want to go
1998
back
sticks
to
out
like,
like a sore thumb. 98, Richie Garcia, Tino's turned his back, walking back on a strike three, and he says ball. Next pitch is grand slam. And we take game one in New York. I mean, that's a big difference, right? You steal the
it's the
game and the
biggest.
momentum in game one, even though the Yankees had a dynasty and a great team, but you steal game one. That sets the tone, right? And
It sets the tone,
that was my only
and it
run
also,
at the World Series. So I got
yeah, that
one.
was,
I was
yeah.
one and done. So
One and done.
yeah,
I
it
mean, some
stings.
people never get that far though. Some people don't even get that far, right? Like you have
No,
people careers like I look right now, my Angels like wasting Trout's career and Otani 1 year out and wins the series. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my goodness, and I feel so bad because like I'm sure you know too. It's like you're one of the best players that ever play the game in Trout and yourself too, but like you don't get those opportunities. It's just basically it's a team sport, right? So it's like it's wherever
it
you
is a
land,
team sport.
and there's loyalties, right? And it's like I know Trout being an Angel fan, like I know he's loyal to that team. He's a good person. Like, so he signed those deals and he's trying to tough it out. But at the same time, it's a business too. And I get that point. The older I get, the more I understand it's a business as well. It's like, hey, I would, even as an Angel fan, I want to see Trout go somewhere and win something. Because I don't think it's cool to waste somebody's career like that, especially somebody that's given so much to the sports and to the cities and all that stuff. Like,
To
even
the
yourself,
organization, like I said,
you still go back to those organizations. So,
yeah, he's Trout's been a good ambassador for baseball, but look, once again, it goes back to his parents. He was raised right. He knew, he always stayed true and humble. And some guys lose that. Some guys
yeah.
make it about them. And I remember, whether it was Robin Yount, Dave Parker, whoever it was, hey man, I don't care how bad you are. This game is going to continue to be played when you're not here. And some people, the way they act, and it's very few because the majority of athletes that I know and played with, they were good people, right? So it's
Yeah.
that game. It didn't miss Greg Vaughn after 2004. It just kept on going, right? And that's just the way it is. It's going to keep on
It's
going,
sports,
and
right?
yeah, and you just
Yeah.
got it's life, because whether it's us at a film convention, for you know,
Yeah.
for life after sports, you know what I mean, and for our production company,
Yep.
if we don't sell what we sell, they're going to buy it from somebody else. We got to keep on going. We can't let it detour us, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
getting
You
on to the
keep on
next, right?
trucking for sure.
Yeah,
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 that's true.
yeah.
It's just sports are just such a. I think people are so fascinated by it because like you guys have like such a short career in most worlds. It's like I feel myself only getting. I'm sure Chris can attest to this too. It's like we're getting better at what we do. But I look at my age and it's like you're retired from baseball at my age now. Like you know what I mean. Like that was when you retired. So it's like with your mind, because you know what I mean. Like you're getting better as a in your knowledge about the game, right?
Oh yeah, I was an
So it's
idiot
like,
as a youngster, mentally.
but your body kind of fail. That's the problem, right? It's
Oh
always about,
yeah,
yeah,
your body goes fast. I mean, I retired at 39, man, and like I said, it's hard to play a game and then go home, do your routine, go home, and you
hmm
go to bed healthy, and you wake up and you got a pulled hamstring or a calf muscle. You know what I mean? You got to you got to go to the ballpark the next day and say, "Hey, man, I didn't do anything stupid. I don't know what happened, but man, I pulled a muscle in my sleep." And I think Paul Mahler said it to me the best. 22 years old. He's like, "Hey, man, it goes fast. Enjoy yourself." At 22, you're thinking you have it's a lifetime, right? It's really not. It happens in a blink. I got a question
yeah,
for you though. I got a
yeah,
question for you because I know LA through and through. What about your Lakers
yeah.
right now? How do you feeling about your Lakers right now?
Dude, I mean, the Luca thing was the craziest thing. That was that totally shocked me. Honestly, I had no idea that they that like. But then I see Dallas, like they said that they weren't ever going to offer him a max deal anyway. So that's kind of why they did it. So I don't know, man. Like I feel like the future is good for them. I totally, you know this. I've never been a huge LeBron. I'm not a huge LeBron fan. Like cool, like he's done a lot for the sport, everything. That's all good. But
Why
like
can
I
I
feel
ask you
like
why not? Why aren't you a LeBron fan?
you know what? It's like I don't know. It's a personality thing. I don't know what it is. Like I feel like LeBron isn't. I feel like he's like I feel like he's a different person than how he portrays. Like when you know Michael, you know what I mean. You're who you are. You know what I mean. You're who you are. Who no matter where you are and who you talk to. Like I feel like he's a different person. Like I don't know, maybe it's just that coming from TV and directing and stuff like that, where I know I've seen people be so two faced in the world, where I feel like he's just one of those people. Like I feel like he's a completely different person
Really?
outside the game. I do, I
But,
really do. I don't know. I
but,
feel like a lot of
but,
people feel that same way though, because like
but,
Jordan
but,
was
but
always a beast. Kobe was always a beast. He wasn't, he wasn't. He was who he was on the court, off the court. You know what I mean? He's the same person. But LeBron
he was,
always tries to be. Go ahead.
but I think Kobe was an introvert, though. You know what I mean? As far as even
Yeah.
hanging with his teammates and doing all that stuff. You're talking about ultimate competitor,
Yes.
great basketball player, loved his, you know what I mean? Loved his girls, his wife,
Yep.
and that was his focus. His focus wasn't hanging out with everybody else and fitting in. You got to remember,
Yeah.
LeBron's been on the cover. I mean, LeBron's been the biggest thing since sliced bread since he was
Oh, I know.
13 years old, right?
Yep.
12.
Yeah, we're about the
So,
same age. I watched his whole career. I watched the entire so from
so,
since I
so
was
you
his
know,
age. So
so things, people change and things happen along the
yeah.
way, and you know, even being all-time leading scorer in the NBA now, and I think
Yeah.
games, I mean minutes, I mean just everything you could possibly imagine, right? He,
Yeah. I don't think
he
it's you know what? It's not even a basketball thing. I think it's
no, I
just
know.
a
I was
per
going to say,
like
but I think that transforms into off the court where maybe you're passing your judgment because I think he goes into protective mode or he's getting pulled at
yeah.
nonstop all the time, especially now. Michael
Well,
didn't have all
I
these
could
out.
tell you I could tell you the point it was the Space Jam. It was him almost defending China because like, it's almost like it's like we call it an arbit. It's like the fuck you money, right? It's like when you make enough money where you don't have to listen to what other people say, right? It's just like, hey, I don't have to do anything. Like I don't have to work for you or whatever, so I can, whatever. But like LeBron's made so much money in his career. I mean, he's a billionaire, right? I think he's made over $1 billion in his career, right? I think he's one of the only basketball players in his career to do it. But when he had that Space Jam stuff, and then because the Chinese box office, there's a lot of stuff in that world where he was like almost like bowing down to China and what they were, because they control that whole market. Like smart China since 2014 or whatever is the second biggest film market, right? And like he was, you know what I
Is
mean?
it
It's
bound?
almost like
Is it bound down or is it a business decision?
well, that's what I'm saying.
You-
So like, I don't think that's a good I don't think that's a good role model for kids. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm gonna just listen to this person over here because they're the ones paying my bill. When you have the money, that you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? You can just be like,
yeah,
hey, you can be the one to stick up for people.
yeah. I
That's
can't get.
all.
I can't. I don't know enough about that situation
Yeah,
to even comment. I just think. I mean, you think about it. Rich Paul, childhood friend, is probably the most powerful guy in basketball right now. I mean,
yeah,
everything he's touched has pretty much turned to gold, and he's been solid through his boys too. You know what I mean? Everybody that's
for
been in
sure.
his life is still in his life, and he's made sure they did it together. When everyone said, "Oh,
Yeah,
he needs to get," when he first signed, "Oh, he needs to get rid of everybody and do this, and that." LeBron said, "No, it can be done this way," and he's proven that.
yeah, yeah.
Like I said,
No,
man.
again, I don't force my opinion on anyone on that. It's just like you just meet certain people. I've never actually met LeBron, but like as far as like I don't know, you just don't see. Like I don't think we could be friends. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like I don't know. I don't know if we'd have, but I don't know. I'm pretty personable. I could get along with anybody.
Yeah, and two,
Um,
you know what? And you could be totally wrong after you get in front of him and say, "Hey, man,
absolutely,
I had a
for
totally
sure.
different opinion of who you were and how you act and how you treat people, or I thought you treat people." There's not too many
Yeah,
people that say anything bad about LeBron. Like I said, I could
yeah,
even imagine myself now dealing with. Oh, I mean, you get zero privacy now. You know what I mean? When I came up to you
zero.
in the beginning, we didn't even have cell phones when I first came up. You know what I mean?
wild to think about.
you had the big construction one
The
in the
brick.
case you took out, and but yeah, the people, so I went through the whole era of not having really any media to,
Yeah.
you had your beat writers and you had your local TV
That's
stations,
right.
ESPN, of course. But after that, halfway through my career, it took off. And then at the end, you had to watch out where you went or what you did because people could cut and paste and extort
That's
you. You know
right.
what I
It
mean?
was
So,
it
so,
was
so
literally at the end of your career. You're right, because like MySpace, those early days of social media, just coming out of the end of your career. That's a trip to think about. Because yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you're
I'm,
right.
I'm
Because yeah,
old,
my
man.
buddy got my buddy got drafted in that same year you retired in 04, 03,
Before,
04,
yeah,
right?
no
Yeah.
for
So my buddy, Phil Hughes, he played on the Yankees, right? So he
Yankees.
got
Yep.
drafted. Yeah, that same year in 04 when we graduated, and like I know it was like they were already thinking about the social media implications because like we had just started using social media. So they were like, you have to, watch out about what you do, what you say, because it really was like that. You don't know. Especially, I mean, Twitter was the worst because people would just go on there and just tweet something and then like it would bite you in the ass 5 years later or whatever the hell it
Yeah.
was.
Like I
Yeah,
said,
dude,
and that's what you had to be careful for because
yeah.
people can say anything and they can cut and paste. And like I said, extortion was big, man. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, that is a wild thing to think about, especially because like, yeah, you guys have no privacy. That's like kind of the number one thing. It's like, and you guys play a sport. It's not like you went out there and were like trying to act in films or go on TV or something like that. Because that's asking for attention. Sports is like you're playing the game that you love, and it happens to be on the national spotlight to make, that's the only way it could be big, kind of thing. But yeah, dude, I don't even know how you guys deal with that. Like, I don't know how the people deal with it today. Because you're right, I will give that to LeBron and the guys these days. Like, they are under so much media scrutiny at all times. Everything they do is like everything you do. You walk from the door to your hotel to the car, and they get that clip. I get it, and
Yeah,
I totally
and say
understand.
one kid and say you didn't sign an autograph because you went, and now you're the biggest asshole in the world. But they don't show the hour and a half that you signed autographs for everyone. You can't stay out there for 12 hours and sign autographs. You wish you could, but you can't. You try to do the best you can, and like I said,
Yep.
man, I just and what I like about LeBron, I like the fact that he has been outspoken about his beliefs and stuff that he didn't believe in too. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
has for me because being a person of color, sometimes guys get in that position and they stay politically correct. LeBron
Yeah.
has been pretty solid in his belief and his walk, so I appreciate him for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know what it was? It's like, especially being on the Cavs these years and everything. Like, I liked him in the beginning too. I don't like that he went, but again, it's like you're chasing championships, you're chasing that stuff. But like making a super team, I also thought was kind of like the downfall. But Celtics did it the couple years before. Like, I think that's kind of where basketball kind of went down. That was really when I stopped watching basketball. It was like the end of Kobe's career. They won what, 9 and 10, but that the super team with the Celtics, and then after that, obviously LeBron and the Heat and everybody. But it was like, what? That's all we're going to do these days is make super teams and go to the NBA. You know what I mean? It was just, it felt kind of, because they went to four straight, and it was like, they got the Chris Bosh and him and D Wade. It was like, dude, how do you, I mean, like, I mean, I know that Steph Curry they took the two, but that was just, I don't even know, man. Like, I really don't know. Like, the super teams issues. I think that's an issue with sports, right?
Well. I think yeah, that was something that was you know there's somewhat recent, opposed to you would never see Barkley go to the Celtics or Magic go to
Exactly.
the Celtics or the Sixers or Detroit. But we didn't have that flexibility. And maybe who knows if times were different, maybe guys would have did that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just hard to say. It's hard to.
Well, because you
You
you didn't were you traded? Did you were you a
Yeah,
free
I got
agent in the
traded,
time?
and then I had then I was a free agent when I went to Tampa, but I got traded to Cincinnati. I got traded to San Diego from Milwaukee.
So
But
you went like a lot of years before ever even getting to free agency like that.
yeah, because I was under
That
my first 8 years were in Milwaukee.
yeah, exactly,
So
dude. That's
and then I
crazy.
got
So yeah, wow. So yeah,
yeah,
you so
yeah
you had
we
you
didn't have
got
that
traded.
power.
Yeah, you didn't have the
We didn't have
power,
that
right?
power. basketball has different power, man. Basketball players have been, how do I say, quote unquote, pretty much their own boss from AAU years. Because if an AAU coach pisses them off, F you, I'm going to play for somebody else. You know what I mean? And so they just keep it
Gotcha.
moving. Or if I go to a school, but back then, if I go to college and this coach does, oh, F you, I'm going to this college over here.
Mhm.
That's
Is
just,
that
but they've been getting
is that
paid
a
for a
good
long
thing?
time. You got to remember,
Yeah.
but basketball players are getting paid by Nike and Adidas and Puma and Converse back in the day. They've been getting paid since junior high school.
Well, have you ever seen that clip of Michael Jordan talking about that? Have you ever seen that one? I gotta find that one because he literally talks about that. He said that we used to be paid off of our potential, and nowadays, like the kids get paid before ever having to work for it, almost in a sense, right? So he's like, that's where there's a kind of a difference. He said in the era, like he's like, that's my biggest difference in the eras is the fact that like you don't really have to work for it as much as you used to. What are your
Well,
thoughts?
I just think it's a different era. I think the kids are way more talented. I think they do work. I just don't think the appreciation is as heartfelt. I think things that they might think that things are owed to them now, opposed to it's and being appreciative and being thankful. You know what I mean? I mean because God gave you that ability, and we got to give
Yeah,
thanks and be grateful for everything that we do have. And and that's when you see people's attitudes start to change. When they start saying it's them and forget how the whole process came in their village and all the hard work and all the people that sacrificed with them, and they start making it about themselves. That's when that's been my experiences when you don't really want to be around someone, right? Because
yeah.
who wants to be around arrogance and people that love themselves? You know what I mean? We all love ourselves, but we don't walk around talking about
Yeah, of
it
course. Yeah, no, I
per
mean
se.
that's not a good that's not the best that's not like the best what's it called like attribute for a person just to walk around talking about themselves. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you got a good point there. But I mean just thinking about how much has changed in the sports world in like even just say 30 years. I was looking at that. I mean, I have a good one for you today because I wanted to ask this because I saw the clip. That the rule in baseball of the throw out at second now where you can't block the base at all. Did you see that clip?
Yeah, I've seen it. My buddy sent it to me.
What is this rule? What is this? And what are
I
your
don't know.
thoughts on?
I mean, yeah, you can't have a piece of your foot in front of the base. You can't have any. It's like I said, last year's rule. The pitch clock 2 years ago, whatever. That was good. But now
Yeah,
I
I agree.
think now I just think we just keep going. They just keep going and they keep going. I don't know. I mean, I didn't. I never knew that. Maybe once again, I don't have the analytics or the data that says these are career ending injuries guys are getting because hey, if you block the base when we played, you didn't slide head first, you slide in, spikes up, and they get the hell out the way. You know what I mean? And if you're trying to, if you're a base stealer trying to get to second on or third, you slid head first but if a guy went down, you took the chance of him messing up your
Yeah,
fingers or your hands or your wrist, right? That's part of it. I just think I guess once again, it comes down to money. These guys are getting paid so much money now. We can't have them jam their pinky or there's something into something, and or guys slide in and hurt our $40 million shortstop, right? So I don't know what the thinking is.
yeah,
I,
dude.
I,
I mean, I saw that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that helps the game at all. Like that rule, like rules like that. That's not speeding anything up. Like you said, the only thing it is for money, trying to not get people injured as much. But at that point, like, what are we doing? Like, that's kind of part of the game in a sense, right? Like, you're going to just like driving to the damn ballpark is, you risking getting in an accident, right? Like, there's risk everywhere. You know what I mean? But I know in our world too, like. I've worked with people like they're not allowed to ride motorcycles because hey we've got a TV show that you're working on for 9 months and you're insured like we don't want you taking any extra risks like I get that world so maybe when somebody's invested $100+ million into a player like I do get that but at the same time I feel like you're losing your audience with rules like that.
yeah, it's I think it's a just a business decision, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know who makes up these rules. I don't even know the committees that until someone sent that to me today and said this is the
Yeah.
dumbest rule I've ever seen in my life. I didn't even know they were thinking about that. I was like, I know they did it at home plate, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
freaking. I saw it this morning too. I tripped out. I was gonna say, dude, that was the
Yeah, but,
craziest
but
shit
this is
ever,
my
man.
deal again. Are they going to, implement it and call it every single day, or they're just going to call it on some teams, or you as long as you know the rule and they're
Mm.
consistent with it, you can handle it. But all of a sudden, they don't call it in the eighth inning on you, and the team scores a go ahead run, and then you can tie the game up, and they
Well,
call you out for it. You know what I mean? They just
that's
have to make sure
exactly that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That is too fine of a thing. Like that's gonna ruin some games and some outcomes,
because,
something like
because
that,
that's a
because
judgment.
there's
That's
gonna
a
be bad
judgment.
calls on it.
It's a judgment call. That hit in his view, you were blocking the base, and that it doesn't. Like I said, I don't know the particulars, but it could be. You can't have any part of the base,
Yeah.
blocked or a percentage of it. But replay, they just sped up the game. Now they're going to slow it down again.
Yeah. So were your injuries, like your shoulders and stuff like that, was that just from batting or was it from like throwing? Like,
I don't know, probably bad mechanics throwing and shoot, it's playing in the cold, man. Back then, we didn't have a dome in
okay,
Milwaukee. It was ice cold
that's
out there,
true.
and a lot of mine was you didn't want to sit on the bench. So even if you were hurt and quote unquote injured a bit, because there is a difference, you were too scared about getting volley pipped. You know what I mean? You didn't want to come out that lineup because somebody else goes in, you might not ever get it back. So we
Yeah,
played.
that's a big fear. Yeah. Well, I was
We
gonna say that it was like with yeah, because like that's what I was gonna ask about today's game, like with the injuries and stuff like that. It's like people don't mind getting benched these days for injuries and stuff like that. They feel like they're gonna, like, you guys wouldn't have done the same thing. Like when you see those minor injuries, like pitchers is a little different because like, if you can't grip the
pitch
ball,
counts.
like if you have,
But plus, too,
yeah,
they're
like
maxing out too. You know what I mean? These kids. I mean, nowadays everybody's going out there throwing as hard as they can. Back then,
yeah,
yeah, I remember watching pitchers. You go out there in the eighth inning, 2 outs, ninth inning, 1 out, 2 out. They're cussing the manager out, man. They're not coming out the game. Now they run out of there. You know what I mean? They're like, oh well,
yeah.
but I mean, I'd run out too if you're gonna give me $40 million and I just got to throw 4 innings. See you later.
Actually, you got a point. But but I get you're saying that now. If you were 25 still pitching, would you want out? Like back in whatever,
I mean,
you know?
back in the day, I mean, that wasn't the makeup. You could not do that. But it's not these kids'
Yeah,
fault.
right.
It's the organizations, right? The organizations
Yeah,
and the analytics and the training staffs or whatever it is. Hey, you, this is the analytics and the numbers for everybody. I don't care where you're at in the game. If you hit 70 pitches, you're out of the game. I mean, 70 pitches, that could be
yeah.
2 innings, and the guy still win a game back then. Nolan Ryan, what's he have? 7, 9, 8 no hitters? So he wouldn't have had one in today's game.
I read a stat the other day that it said Nolan Ryan had 198 starts or whatever where he didn't get any run support, and he still had 300 plus career wins. So imagine if he just got one run in like even half of those games, he would have been a 400 game winner. Like that's unreal. Like, but that was just a different makeup of guys back then. You get guys pitching back to back. Hell, we talked to some of those guys from the Negro leagues, right? And double duties and all those guys like pitching 2 games back to back. It's like that's a different mentality these days. Like
Well, right, but
that
that's
you
all
would
they knew, right? And in my
that's all
era,
they
I
knew.
mean, that's
Yeah,
all the pitchers knew. You know what? They weren't coming out their game. They didn't want to come out.
yeah, yeah, dude, that's crazy, man. Last thing, real quick, is I just wanted to go back to football real quick because I know Chris was gonna like that one. He actually had a good one. He said, "I had a purpose before you had an opinion." That was a good quote, man.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. I thought, but
that is a good one.
so Philly, I know Chris is gonna like this. Who, what's gonna happen to football now? You think you think that could be a dynasty? Like they were fucking good, man. They were like I don't know. Chris says yup immediately, but like obviously, I mean, he's been to two. Now Hurts has been to two, won one. They could have definitely won the other one. Hell, even the Niners couldn't. Now looking back with the refs and everything, it's like shit. They could have won last year. Should have won.
Yeah, but
So
but you know it's yeah, Philly. They're good, man. But the key is just like anybody else. It's hard to repeat in
yes,
sports, right? So, but is Philly on the right track? I think with their how do you say with their mold and the way they have the they're going to run the ball. They're going to rely on their defense. And until teams make adjustments or stop them and make them beat them a different type of way, that can win in any weather. That can win on the road. That can win at home. To me, that's the easy way to win, right? Not an
yeah.
easy way, but the
Well,
foundation is laid
it's the
out.
formula. It's the formula for their
Yeah,
success,
the
right? It's
formula is
run the ball and just do play their game, right? That's their formula. Is play their
but
game.
also you got to remember in free agency, you lose one or two guys, or and this year I think they stated that every offensive lineman on that team played, no major injuries, right? I
Yeah,
think I think that's what I heard. So injuries are a big part of it. You take
huge.
the 49ers after game 4, half the team was out the rest of the
Yeah,
year. So
yeah.
I mean, you need a little bit of luck too. Shout out to Ron Frazier, University of Miami, my college coach. He said, "Hey, I'd rather be lucky than good, and you need
That's
some
a
luck.
great quote.
You,
That's great,
you need some luck." I got to give a shout out to my daughter though, going to the
dude. For real.
dude. Yeah, Genay Vaughn. Shout out. Dad loves you. All the hard work. You know what I mean. She's going to the Pan American Games. You know what I mean, and with all the top
Yep,
equestrian riders, she kicked ass. The last couple of shows, she won them, and I'm proud of her.
crazy.
A lot of hard work, man. Shout
It's a
out to
lot of
my
hard
ex-wife.
work.
Shout out to my
Yeah,
ex-wife too, because that's her coach, and but Dad's proud of Janae, and
yeah,
I'll be talking to you
yeah.
guys from Sweden pretty soon. We'll be doing this show from Sweden. I'll be
That's what
walking
I was
around.
gonna say. So
Yeah,
that's where it's in Sweden.
yeah, in April. So
In
yeah,
April.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
we
have to
have
go
to
over
do
there and
some
support her.
updates from there for sure. Take
Oh
that
yeah, man.
laptop
Like,
or the iPad or whatever. But
yeah, I have the iPad, but I'll have my phone. But like I said, you don't see a lot of people of color, man, that get to that
yes,
position. I mean, she's one of the best in the world, and like I said, she started at 3. And I remember her just going out there jumping on the pony, rescue, bareback, and now to me, she's always made it, but now she's let the world know that she's here.
dude, just
That's
making
awesome.
champions, man. Bro,
Yeah,
that's gotta feel so good as a dad to like see that whole thing, like you just said, like because like I got a 3 year old right now, and like I'm like, fuck, dude. It's like you don't want them to grow up, you know. You're
no,
like
you
those are
don't.
the great ages.
But at that time too, horseback riding, you got your 3-year-old getting thrown off and kicked off. She would always get right back on, and yeah, it's been tough. But like I said, my ex-wife, she's done a great job with Janae as far as being her coach and riding her hard, really, really, really hard. Sometimes, you know what I mean. But look how she's turned out. I can't take any credit for her on the horse sector. You know what I mean? Except just love and support. That's it.
Hey man, that sometimes that's all you really need, man. Like for real. Like just like I'm gonna be honest with you because it's like sometimes you just need that little bit of encouragement to get to the next point, right? I mean, you know this. You've been there, you know. Sometimes those little things like really mean a lot, you know, and
And
to
that's why I
get you
try
to
to,
that next point.
and that's why I try to stay. With all 3 of the kids. To me, is the mind. Everyone has talent, but it's the ones that are mentally tough. The one that it goes back to Jalen Hurts. How we started the show. It goes back to you know acknowledging and seeing where you're trying to get, and not getting too high
Yeah.
when things are good, and not getting too low when things are bad, and being able to stay focused. I heard something today on him where someone was talking. They said that they just won one of the AFC championship game, right? And
Hmm.
and he said the teammates were running around acting crazy. They said he was stoic. He walked through the locker room, had his head down, and someone reached out and they shook his hand. He said, "Good luck to you in the Super Bowl." He said, "It's already written." He said, "It's already
Ooh,
written." How deep is that?
Damn,
So so
that's some chills
hopefully
right there.
so hopefully
Man,
my daughter, I mean, she'll be over there training. She spends a lot of time in Europe, but she'll be over there training. Hopefully that whole time, this is part of her journey. Now
yep,
let's write the rest of it is written. Let's go do it. I mean, don't
that's
change.
it.
Just continue to be humble and be who you are and kick their ass. You know what I mean?
That's it right there, man. Well, that's what I was gonna say, man. It's like you being her dad, like she sees that. You know what I mean? Like that person, like keep going, just keep going. Hard work
And never
pays
be
off.
satisfied.
You know what I
And
mean?
after you win this championship at the World Equestrian Games or World Cup,
Yeah,
after you win this, hey, it's on to the next. And enjoy it, embrace it. But unless you're going to retire, you got to keep grinding.
got to keep
Because
grinding,
now everyone's going to be
dude.
gunning for you. It's hard to stay there.
Yep,
Everyone's going to be gunning for you, right? So,
yeah,
like I
that's
said,
it.
I tell the boys the same thing, man. I mean, everyone has talent, but it's the ones that can put it together.
Yeah, it is. It is really perseverance too, because it is like it's like everyone, all those like sayings are coming in. It's like a little bit of luck with talent and hard work. All that put those together, and
Right
you get
place, right
success.
time.
Yeah,
Right,
it really
right
is.
system. Being in the right place. So you need all of it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like I said, I've always told my kids, as long as you go out there, it doesn't take anything to try. Trying is what is trying, but to compete,
yeah,
if you're a competitor, it's really really important to you, and you'll do what you have to win. You'll get up early, you'll stay late, you'll be the first one there, the last one to leave. You'll do it when no one else is watching. That's the key. When
that's the
people do
key.
things when no one else is watching, you know, that's I used to try to equivalent to taking a test. I said, if you put the hay in the barn, you know, the night before the test, you're not nervous because you prepared, right? But if you're trying to cram and do everything the night before for this test, that'd have been nerve wracking for me.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
you
Yeah,
know, and,
if you
and
didn't
same thing.
prepare,
Yeah, same thing in sports. There's only one way. Like I said, when no one else is working, you got to be working. And you got to sacrifice something. You have to do something that somebody else isn't doing. Because if you're
yeah,
doing the same
that's
thing
so
as
true.
everybody else, what separates you?
Got to separate yourself.
You
Yeah,
got to
you're right,
separate
man.
yourself. Like my grandma
Dude, that's
said, don't
big.
make it too close. Do not make it too close.
Your grandma had the best. That's one of the best sayings ever because it's true. It's very. It's
It,
so
it
freaking
is.
true. You can't. That was what
I
me and
learned that.
Chris were talking about that before the game. I said the Super Bowl. I'm like, don't make it close. You're gonna lose. You're gonna
Yeah,
lose.
if you make it
And then
close,
right
yeah,
away, man.
with Junior on the
Yeah,
other side. And my grandmother told me that at 10 years old. Do not, Greg, don't make it too close. And that
yeah,
was that
so
was her
true.
approach on life, whether it's school, no matter business, whatever you're doing, outgrind,
That's it.
outwork, outshine everybody, and stay humble.
Oh man, Grandma said it best. There you go. Right, Grandmas
Yeah,
and they
grandmas
have the
always
words
been
of
smart.
wisdom, man. They
Grandmas
are,
always
man. They
been smart. I mean, even though they birthed our parents, and I love, my mother, my dad's gone, and my mom is another big reason. But the hierarchy and the pecking order starts at grandma. You know what I mean?
are. Absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's 100% right there. So
Well,
that
well,
was a good way to
well.
end.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, till next time, and I think we're gonna try to get Genay on next week. So we get Genay Vaughn
I
on
was
next
gonna
week.
say, please let's do that because then I was going to tell you to get some footage out there too, and we'll put some stuff together as well. Because we're going to start putting out. Because when's your you got? Are you doing your golf tournament before going, or are you doing
No,
that this
no,
year?
no. I might take this year off. I'm thinking about moving it to Vegas, and
Okay,
I'm also thinking about maybe doing something different, a pickleball event. With the pros and people, and
dude, it's not a bad idea.
yeah, doing a pickleball. My
Honestly,
buddy,
out here we can really organize some stuff out here. We can really organize some good stuff out here
yeah,
too.
just getting sponsors. That's the hardest thing. We always
Yeah,
talk about sponsors. Getting sponsors
that's true.
are
I've been working this last month a lot on some stuff, and I got this new kid and a couple people that they're doing socials for big people, and I've just been picking their brains and working on all that stuff. And dude, we're gonna 2025 is we're gonna kill it right now with all this stuff. And me and Chris were working on the sizzle and everything, so we'll have that done real soon, and then we'll be able to pitch it. We'll give it to Andrew and whoever else when Mitsu gets back in a few weeks. So we're in a good position, I think. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Just send
especially
some
with
of
some
it
new
over so
content.
I can. You just send some of it over so I can look at it and then get it
Yeah,
to Trina and let her take a look at it and let her throw her 2 cents in. And yeah, I just want to see
absolutely.
where we're at. I want to see where we're
Yep,
at.
sounds good, brother. Cool,
Okay.
man.
All right.
And then
So next
yep,
next Tuesday, right?
Next Tuesday, yeah, next Tuesday. We'll probably rest around the same time ish. Between 4. Yeah, but between 4 and 6, because I don't know. I'm working that morning, and hopefully I get off in time. So.
6 works better for me on Tuesday because
Oh,
Genay
okay.
rides. She rides and she'll be. It'll give her time to be able to clean
Well,
up and
that's
do all that.
perfect. 6 is easier for me on Tuesdays, so that works
Okay.
better. I don't have to rush.
Okay.
Cool.
Perfect. All right,
All right,
brother.
G. All
All
right,
right. See you
guys.
guys. See you, Chris.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. See you.